Imagine this: you're caught in a storm, not just any storm, but a storm so fierce that the waves crash over you relentlessly. Each wave feels like it's pulling you deeper, suffocating you with the weight of your own fears and doubts. Have you ever felt like you're drowning, not in water, but in life itself? The problems seem endless, don't they? One after another, crashing into you, leaving you gasping for air. And just when you think you might catch a breath, another wave hits, harder than the last. But here's a question: what do you do when the storm doesn't stop? When the waves don't let up? Do you fight against the tide, struggle to stay afloat? Or do you let the current take you, hoping it will carry you somewhere safe? Yet, as the storm rages on, a thought begins to surface. What if this storm, this overwhelming force that seems determined to break you, isn't just chaos? What if there's something beyond the waves, something deeper, something more powerful than the storm itself? Have you considered that maybe, just maybe, the storm is trying to lead you somewhere? But where? And why? As you battle the waves, these questions swirl around you, pulling you into a loop of uncertainty. You search the horizon, desperate for a sign, for anything that might bring clarity to this relentless turmoil. But all you see are waves, endless and unforgiving. Or are they? What if there's more to this storm than meets the eye? What if, hidden within the chaos, there's a lesson, a truth waiting to be uncovered? Could it be that the storm, with all its fury, is not your enemy but your guide? And so, as you float in the midst of the tempest, you begin to wonder, what is this storm really trying to tell you? What is it that you need to find beneath these crushing waves? But the answer, it seems, lies just beyond the next wave. Imagine standing at the edge of despair, where the shadows of death loom large, and the currents of destruction swirl around you, pulling you into their depths. David, the warrior king, knew this place all too well. In 2 Samuel 22 verses 5-7, he paints a vivid picture: the waves of death swirled about me, the torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. Can you feel it? That moment when the weight of the world is too much to bear, when every breath feels like a struggle, and the darkness closes in from all sides. David was there, caught in the grip of fear and hopelessness. Have you ever felt like that, as if the very forces of life were conspiring against you? But here's the thing: David didn't give in to the darkness. He didn't let the waves consume him. Instead, in the midst of his turmoil, he did something extraordinary. He cried out. Not just any cry, but a desperate, soul-wrenching call to the only one who could save him. In my distress I called to the Lord, I called out to my God. And what happened next? The God of the universe heard him. Imagine that, David's cry, one voice among many, reaching the ears of the Almighty. And in that moment, everything changed. The waves that once threatened to drown him became still, the currents that sought to destroy him lost their power. Can you picture it? The instant when light breaks through the darkness, when hope pierces the veil of despair. David was rescued, not because he was strong, but because he knew where to turn in his weakness. So, here's the question: in the face of your own waves, your own torrents, where do you turn? Do you struggle alone, or do you cry out to the one who has the power to calm the storm? David found his answer in the arms of his God. What will yours be? No matter how deep you find yourself, no matter how far you feel from the shore, remember this: there is no depth too great, no storm too fierce, that God cannot reach you. You might feel lost in the vastness of your troubles, as if the waves are too high, the darkness too thick. But here's the truth: God is greater than any storm that life throws at you. Think about it. The creator of the universe, the one who set the stars in the sky and commands the seas, is not intimidated by your circumstances. The storm that feels so overwhelming to you is nothing compared to his power. But here's the key: God won't force his way into your storm. He waits for you to call out, to reach for him in the midst of your struggle. Have you ever thought about that? The idea that the very God who controls the winds and the waves is just waiting for you to ask for his help? It's a humbling thought, isn't it? That in all his majesty, he still cares about your personal storm, your specific struggle. So, when the waves rise and the winds howl, remember that you are not alone. God is there, waiting, ready to step in. But you have to reach out, you have to cry out to him. Because no matter how deep the waters, no matter how strong the storm, God is greater. And when you call on him, he will answer. He governs the storm, he governs your storm, and he can bring peace where there was once chaos. The question is, will you let him? Will you invite him into your storm, trusting that his power is more than enough to calm the waves? It's a common misconception that following Jesus means a life free of storms, that once you're on the right path, the skies will always be clear. But the truth is far from that. Even when you're following Jesus, storms can and will arise. In fact, sometimes the fiercest storms come precisely when you're walking closest to him. Think about it. The disciples were following Jesus, physically in his presence, and yet they found themselves in the middle of a terrifying storm on the Sea of Galilee. Does that mean they were out of God's will? Absolutely not. They were exactly where they were supposed to be, doing exactly what they were supposed to do. And yet, the storm still came. So what does that mean for us? It means that the presence of a storm in your life doesn't necessarily indicate that you're on the wrong path. Just because you're facing trials, challenges, or even fear doesn't mean you've strayed from God's plan. In fact, it might mean you're right where he wants you to be. But here's the comfort in that realization: if the storm is part of the journey, then Jesus is there with you in the midst of it. He doesn't abandon his followers when the skies grow dark. No, he stays with them, guiding them through the tempest. So the next time you find yourself in the middle of a storm, don't immediately assume that you've lost your way. Instead, consider this: could it be that the storm is part of God's plan for your growth, your strength, your faith? And could it be that, even in the storm, you are exactly where you're supposed to be? Remember, following Jesus doesn't mean avoiding storms. It means having the courage to face them, knowing that he is with you, guiding you through every step of the way. Growth through the storms. Why would a loving God allow storms in our lives? It's a question we've all asked at some point, especially when the waves crash hardest. But here's a profound truth: God allows storms not to break us, but to build us. It's in the midst of the storm that we often grow the most. Think about it: when everything is calm, we rarely stretch our limits. We stay comfortable, safe, and unchanged. But when the storm hits, we're forced to dig deep, to reach out in ways we never imagined, to rely on strength we didn't know we had. That's where growth happens. The most valuable lessons in life aren't learned when the skies are clear. They're learned when the winds howl and the waves threaten to pull us under. It's in those moments that our faith is tested and strengthened, our character is refined, and our dependence on God becomes more real than ever. So, the next time you find yourself in a storm, remember this: the storm isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to develop you, to shape you into the person God knows you can be. And when you come out on the other side, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more anchored in your faith than ever before. Jesus in the boat during the storm. Imagine being in a small boat, surrounded by raging waters, with the wind whipping and the waves crashing over the sides. The disciples faced exactly this in Matthew 8. They were terrified, convinced that they were about to drown. But where was Jesus? Asleep in the boat. It's a scene that might seem surprising. How could Jesus sleep through such a fierce storm? But it's also deeply reassuring. Because Jesus, even in the midst of the storm, wasn't worried. He wasn't intimidated by the chaos around him. He knew the power he held, and he knew that the storm was no match for him. When the disciples finally woke him, panicked and afraid, Jesus simply spoke, and the storm ceased. "Peace, be still," he said, and instantly, the winds died down, and the waves calmed. This story is more than just a miracle, it's a powerful reminder that no matter how fierce the storm, Jesus is with you in the boat. He's not afraid of the storms in your life. He's not overwhelmed by your difficulties. And when the time is right, he can calm the storm with just a word. But here's the key: the disciples had to wake him, they had to call on him. And so do we. When you find yourself in the midst of life's storms, don't forget that Jesus is right there with you. He may seem silent, but he's always present, ready to bring peace and calm to even the most turbulent situations. Picture the scene. The disciples are in the middle of a storm, waves crashing against their boat, the wind howling in their ears. They're terrified, convinced that they're about to be swallowed by the sea. Panic sets in, and they frantically try to save themselves. But in their fear, they forget one crucial thing: Jesus is with them. While the disciples are overwhelmed by fear, Jesus is calm, even as the storm rages around them. This contrast is striking. The disciples are gripped by panic, but Jesus remains unshaken, fully in control. What does this tell us? It teaches us that in the face of life's storms, our instinct might be to panic, to let fear take over. But Jesus shows us a different way. He shows us that even in the most chaotic moments, there's no need to fear because he is with us. His calm in the storm is a powerful reminder that we can trust him, no matter how dire our circumstances appear. Instead of letting fear drive us to despair, we're invited to trust in Jesus, to rely on his presence and his power. He's not worried about the storm, so why should we be? If Jesus, who commands the wind and the waves, is at peace, then we too can find peace in trusting him. So the next time you're facing a storm in your life, remember this moment. Remember how Jesus stayed calm when the disciples were losing hope. Let his peace become your peace, and choose to trust him, knowing that he is more than capable of carrying you through whatever storm you face. Storms in life are rarely welcomed. They disrupt our plans, challenge our strength, and test our patience. But here's a truth that can transform how we view these turbulent times: storms have a purpose. They are not random or meaningless, they are part of God's divine strategy, a spiritual conditioning designed to strengthen and refine us. Think of it like this: just as athletes train under resistance to build their physical strength, we, too, are put through spiritual resistance in the form of life storms. These challenges are not meant to break us, but to build us, to develop qualities like resilience, patience, and a deeper trust in God. It's easy to see the storm as the enemy, but what if the storm is actually a tool in God's hands? A tool used to shape us into who he knows we can be. When we face trials, our faith is stretched, our character is tested, and our reliance on God deepens. It's in these moments of adversity that we often experience the most significant spiritual growth. So, when you find yourself in the midst of a storm, ask yourself, what is God teaching me through this? How is He using this situation to strengthen my faith? The storm isn't there to destroy you, it's there to equip you, to prepare you for what's ahead. It's a part of God's plan to make you stronger, more resilient, and more deeply rooted in your faith. Embrace the storm, knowing that it has a purpose, and that purpose is to make you more like Christ. When storms arise, fear often follows. It's a natural response to uncertainty and danger. But what if I told you that the solution to fear in the midst of life's storms is something within your reach? The answer is faith. It's not about the size of your faith, but the object of it. Even the smallest amount of faith, when placed in a great God, can lead to incredible outcomes. Jesus Himself said that faith as small as a mustard seed can move mountains. So, when you're caught in a storm, it's not about having unshakable confidence or perfect trust from the start. It's about taking that small, trembling faith and placing it in the hands of an all-powerful God. Think of it this way: the strength of your faith isn't determined by how much you have, but by whom it's in. A tiny seed of faith in a mighty God is more powerful than the greatest fear. Why? Because it's not your faith that does the heavy lifting, it's God. He's the one who calms the storms, who brings peace to chaos, and who guides you safely through the trials. So, when fear threatens to overwhelm you, remember that it's not about conquering the storm on your own. It's about placing your faith, however small it might be, in the one who is greater than any storm. Trust in God's power, His wisdom, and His love for you. He can take your smallest step of faith and use it to bring about great results, calming the waves and stilling the winds in ways you could never imagine. In the end, it's not the size of your faith that matters, it's the greatness of the God you place it in. In the midst of life's storms, we often search for solutions, desperate for a way to calm the chaos and find peace. The ultimate answer, however, is both simple and profound: Jesus. Jesus is not just a comforting presence in the storm, He is the answer to it. When the winds are howling and the waves are crashing, having Jesus in your life changes everything. He is the one who can speak peace to your storm, calming the tumultuous seas and bringing serenity to the chaos. Think about the story of the disciples on the boat. The storm raged, and they were terrified. But when Jesus was awakened and spoke, "Peace, be still," the storm ceased. This isn't just a historical account, it's a powerful truth for today. Jesus promises to never abandon His followers, even in the most turbulent times. His presence is the key to overcoming any storm you face. Jesus doesn't just offer temporary relief, He offers lasting peace. With Him in your life, you have access to a power that can calm the fiercest storms and provide stability amidst the most chaotic circumstances. He is the anchor that holds you steady when everything around you seems to be falling apart. So, if you find yourself battling a storm, remember this: Jesus is the ultimate answer. Invite Him into your life, and you will discover a peace that surpasses understanding. He promises to be with you always, guiding you through every storm, and with Him, you can overcome anything.